to talk a little bit about the resolution that we have before us. And then I believe we will put a motion and a second on the floor, and then we'll have a read. I know that members of the council wanted to read the actual language of the resolution before voting, so we read it. It's already on the docket, so it doesn't need to be read, but I think there was an interest in doing that. So I'm going to turn it over to Councilman McPike to discuss the resolution itself, and then we'll have comments from other members. Councilman McPike.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for working with me on this resolution. We started talking about this a week or so ago when we felt it likely that the Dobbs v. Jackson decision was going to come down, and when it did, we started working on this. And then thank you to my colleagues, Councilwoman Bagley, Councilwoman Gaskins, Vice Mayor Jackson, who submitted language suggestions that helped improve this. This is a consensus product, I believe, of a lot of voices on this council, and I think it's stronger for that. So thank you all very much. We knew that this was coming. The leaked opinion of the Supreme Court decision came out more than a month ago, and when it did, we had a discussion on this dais about our reactions to that, our concerns about the availability of the right to women to make reproductive choices here in Virginia and in Alexandria. And this resolution proceeds from that conversation. And though we knew this was coming, I don't think that lessened the impact of it happening. It didn't lessen the emotional feelings that we had in response to this incident. Friday evening, after the decision came down, I was at the federal courthouse here in Alexandria with State Senator Adam Ebbin, with State Delegate Elizabeth Bennett Parker, who's with us here in the audience tonight, with Councilmember Bagley. We were there with more than 100 members of the Alexandria community in an event organized by Planned Parenthood to let us vent our emotions, state our fears and our concerns in light of the decision that came from the Supreme Court. People were angry. People were scared. They were scared that their granddaughters would spend their lives refighting battles they thought their grandmothers had won. They worried that the economic and familial benefits, the benefits to the families of women that come from the access to reproductive choice would go away. Now, fortunately, right now, we are in Virginia. And in Virginia, abortion remains legal. And there's nothing we can do from this dais or as a city council to override state law. So if that changes, we will not be able to prevent that. But what we can do is work within the powers that we have as a city body to ask our city manager and our city attorney to take on active roles in helping us protect this right to reproductive choice here in our city, whether that's through revising our planning and zoning rules, whether that's by joining lawsuits, whether that's by putting language in our legislative packets. And for those who are here tonight or who have emailed in about this ordinance, you should know that we put this language in our packets almost every year. We have time and time again, as a council and as a community, stood against restrictions on a woman's right to choose and spoken in favor of the expansion of reproductive choice options. We did so recently when the General Assembly came together last year or the year before to broaden the availability of reproductive choice here in Virginia, and we will continue to do that as we assess our legislative packets and the messages that we're sending to the people who represent us and represent us ably in Richmond. Today, I have received emails and messages from people from across our city. There are people here in attendance tonight on both sides of this question. And if you emailed me about this today, I tried to respond and to explain to you why I felt that this was important and how I believe that this represents not just the consensus of opinion of this council, but the majority opinion of the people of the city of Alexandria. I know this is a very difficult issue for many people, and that people of goodwill can disagree on many of the specifics regarding reproductive choice. But I hope that if you look at this resolution and the discussion we'll have tonight, you'll see that we are doing this in a thoughtful and careful way, using the tools we have as a city to enact the will of the people of this city, not an attempt to stand athwart history yelling stop. We were elected to this dais and to this council, not just to be the voice of the city of Alexandria, but to lead. And leading means making decisions. With this resolution, we are doing exactly that. We're deciding to stand up for the right to reproductive choice, an action that reflects the progressive values of this city that we love. We are also standing up for the entire chain of decisions that link together with Roe and Casey, which were overturned on Friday. Griswold v. Connecticut, Lawrence v. Texas, Obergefell v. Hodges, all linked together in a chain of decisions that secure our right to privacy in this nation. And when you attack Roe v. Wade, you're attacking that fundamental freedom that we all should be cherishing. The freedom that allows married couples to buy contraception, the freedom that allows people to make reproductive choices that are right for themselves and for their families, the freedom that allows people like me to marry my husband. My marriage descends from the jurisprudence that gave us Roe. So I'm very happy to be able to stand here tonight and stand up for that line of judicial thought. We're not elected to be silent on essential matters. And this resolution will be us speaking with one firm voice. And so, Mr. Mayor, with that, I move the adoption of this resolution with an amendment to strike the words more than and substitute nearly in the third whereas clause because I had a slight drafting error.
Great. There's a motion by Councilman McPike, seconded by Vice Mayor Jackson. Is there further discussion? And we will. Well, okay. Let's do the. Let's read the resolution, right, and then we can have discussion. Sorry, that's a good point.
No, that's
Councilman
fine.
McPike,
I'm happy to start.
Yep, go for it.
We just go two whereases down the line. That'll do it. Whereas, in the case of Dobbs v. Jackson, the United States Supreme Court abandoned longstanding precedents and overturned Roe v. Wade, as well as Planned Parenthood v. Casey. Whereas, there is no decision more important for a woman than whether and when to have children. And
got it. Whereas, for nearly 50 years, the right of women to reproductive choice has been recognized and protected at the federal level. And whereas abortion is an essential reproductive health service, and its availability is an important part of ensuring every American's right to safe and accessible health care. And
whereas that right to a safe abortion has proven essential to the ability of women across this nation to protect their health, their lives, and the financial stability of their families. And whereas that right to reproductive choice also impacts the liberty, health, and financial security of transgender men and non-binary Americans. And
whereas it is not possible to ban abortion, but only to ban safe and legal abortions, as evidenced by the many people harmed or killed by illicit procedures in the years before Roe v. Wade. And whereas limiting access to safe abortion has been shown to increase incidents of domestic abuse, and laws criminalizing abortion can have profoundly negative impacts on women who suffer miscarriages. And whereas
the negative impacts of limiting access to safe abortion disproportionately affect low-income women, women of color, transgender, and non-binary Americans, and survivors of child abuse, sexual assault, or domestic violence. And whereas Roe v. Wade and its progeny were foundational decisions codifying the right to privacy, and their repeal places in jeopardy many other essential rights and freedoms enjoyed by the American people. And
whereas women's reproductive rights are human rights, and the majority of the American people support the right of women to make these personal decisions without the intervention of their government. And whereas, despite the decision in Dobbs v. Jackson, the right to a safe abortion remains protected by the laws of the Commonwealth of Virginia as they currently stand, that right has been and will continue to be under legislative attack in the General Assembly of Virginia. And
whereas the City of Alexandria has in recent years taken positions in favor of a woman's right to choose in our legislative package and has repeatedly opposed bills in the General Assembly of Virginia that would restrict access to safe abortion. And whereas the City of Alexandria has a vested interest in protecting and promoting the health and the rights of its residents, including the right of women to reproductive choice and the right of all Alexandrians to privacy.
Unless you're the women in the womb, then you get to kill those women. You don't care about those women, do you?
No.
Now therefore, but it be it resolved by the City Council of Alexandria, Virginia that 1, we reaffirm our opposition to the imposition of restrictions on reproductive choice by the governments of the Commonwealth or the United States and stand in solidarity with women in states where abortion has become or soon will become illegal. 2, we call upon the General Assembly of Virginia and the United States Congress to take such actions as may be necessary to protect the right to abortion in Virginia. 3, we ask the city attorney to actively seek participation as a plaintiff or amicus curiae in ongoing or future litigations to protect the availability of abortion services in Alexandria. 4, we ask that the city manager work with the director of planning and zoning in consultation with the city attorney to review existing land use regulations regarding the operation of a clinic providing abortion services, and bring forward for consideration zoning text amendments to ensure unfettered administrative approval in any commercial or mixed-use zone. And 5, we ask the city manager consider budgetary proposals for the fiscal year 2024 budget to ensure accessibility of reproductive health services, safe abortion services, accessible maternal and child health services for low-income Alexandria residents.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Pike. And so I'll entertain any comments that folks have at this point. Councilwoman Gaskins, you can go first.